When you think of Agile development, what's the very first thing that comes to mind? Is it stand-ups, sprints, retrospectives? Okay, so it was like a million years ago in tech years, but 20 years ago. It seems like everybody was trying to embrace the Agile methodology. But now when people think of Agile, they essentially think of pointless status meetings and ridiculous 2-week sprints where something useful needs to be delivered and dumb games like estimation and poker. So let me ask you a basic question. Have you ever taken the time to look and read the Agile Manifesto? Do you know what it means? What it stands for? Or is it possible that you've never read it and maybe you're just kind of doing what you've been told? Going through the day-to-day, following the ceremonies, and being forced into a bit of a box that will make you deliver on timelines and match up to estimates. I think if you take a little bit of time and look back at the original 2001 document, you may find that following the Agile methodology still actually makes a ton of sense. But you may also find that what you think is Agile really isn't anywhere close. So in today's video, I want to take a little bit of a deeper dive into Agile. What it is, what it should be, what it absolutely shouldn't be. And then I'll take a little bit of time and explain how I've done Agile with my teams. So let's first off just take a look at the Agile Manifesto as it was written. It's a very simple one-page document that outlines a way to deliver a quality product. On my screen, I've pulled up the original Agile Manifesto. And really at the heart of it, there's 4 main principles. Individuals and interactions over processes and tools. Working software over comprehensive documentation. Customer collaboration over contract negotiation. And responding to change over following a plan. Now, if you just look at those 4 things, I think you'll find that there's nothing in there about stand-ups. There's nothing in there about 2-week sprints. There's nothing in there about retrospectives. And there's nothing in there about a ton of ridiculous process. Well, that's not exactly true. It actually does say something about a process, doesn't it? It says we value individuals and interactions over processes and tools. Starting to see where I'm going with this? Is it possible that over 20 years of interpretation, the software development community as a whole has completely ruined the Agile experience? How did we get here? Let's take a look at the full 12 principles and see how it could have been interpreted into where we are now. And just for the sake of this video making any sense at all, I'm going to take the 12 and group them into sets. When you put these sets together, you might just be able to see how this has all been misinterpreted. So let's take a look at the first 3. And I'm just going to go ahead and pick out 3 that I think kind of belong together. The first one, our highest priority is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable software. The next one, deliver working software frequently from a couple of weeks to a couple of months with a preference on the shorter timescale. And the third one, working software is the primary measure of progress. So I think that these 3, if somehow treated as one, could be somehow interpreted to match up with where we've ended up in our corporate version of Agile. In today's world, I've seen and heard some really bad Agile stuff that includes hard and fast rules, like software is always continuously delivered only to production. Sprints need to be planned to deliver functionality to customers every 2 weeks. Anything that takes longer than that has to be broken up. And if nothing is delivered in 2 weeks, we have failed. And I think we all know that these 3 statements are dangerous and make for an absolutely terrible working environment for any developer. All right, 3 more. At regular intervals, the team reflects on how to become more effective, then tunes and adjusts its behavior accordingly. The most efficient and effective method of conveying information to and within a development team is face-to-face conversation. And finally, business people and developers must work together daily throughout the project. Now these ones are the ones that give Agile a bad name. The first describes what many teams refer to as the retrospective. This is a meeting that happens at the end of every sprint where we talk about all the failures and get scolded by our bosses for missing our deadlines. No, not really. Hopefully not. Not in your team, not on my team, but hey, sometimes, yes, that is exactly what happens. The second, again, remember this was written in 2001, could be twisted into working remotely is bad for collaboration. I'm also pretty sure that Zoom didn't exist in 2001, so maybe we should be reconsidering the definition of face-to-face. Now the third one, and I think this is how we get the idea of the daily Scrum meeting. Since we couldn't possibly, just naturally work with business when we need clarification, instead we're forced into 15 to 30 minute meetings every morning where we talk about progress and get feedback. All right, so now let's go through the last 6. And this is particularly painful, I suppose, seems to have kind of disappeared from how teams should be delivering software. I'm not going to read them all, but I'll highlight them on the screen. Okay, let's just touch on a few of them. The first one is about building projects around motivated individuals. It says give them the environment and the support they need and give them the trust to get the job done. I would love to see this happen more often. I think that if everybody stuck to this, we would get a lot further in software development, but unfortunately that's not always the case. The next one, agile processes promote sustainable development. The sponsors, developers, and users should be able to maintain a constant pace indefinitely. Well, that seems great. I would love to see that happen. I think that in the world of today's software development, we are kind of crammed into getting things done quickly and not necessarily working at a sustainable pace. And the next one that I wanted to touch on is the best architectures, requirements, and designs emerge from self-organizing teams. Now, I think that this is where we get the idea of pods, right? Where people get put into groups of 3 or 4 and they're expected to work together to accomplish a task. And at the surface, I think that totally makes sense. It's just that you don't want to stick those people together forever. They're supposed to be self-organizing, meaning that when you're handed a task, you essentially grab the people that are going to be good at that task and you work on it together. You don't necessarily stay with the same group the entire time because that doesn't really promote learning. So at this point, if you're on a team that looks down on the Agile methodology and prefer to follow a process that allows for more efficient software delivery and communication, you might actually be closer to the Agile spirit than those teams who do Agile by the book. I have no idea what that book is, but it should be downvoted to oblivion. So, if all this is such a dumpster fire, how do you do it the right way? Well, first I'd say there is no right way. That's kind of the point. But if you're looking for a way, and you're cool with sticking around for a few more minutes, let me go over the highlights of what my teams do when we do Agile. And hey, if you made it this long into the video, take a second and hit the like button. You obviously like the video, you made it this far, really appreciate it. So I want to break this down into 3 main categories so it's easy to digest. The first one is ceremonies and meetings, the second one is software delivery practices, and the third one is planning and communication. So in teams that I've worked with, we do have a daily meeting, and we even call it a stand-up, but I don't know if it's exactly the same thing that the book would tell you to do when it comes to practicing Agile. There's a lot of us on the meeting, and the purpose of it is so everyone can understand what's going on. We purposefully don't go through and just say, here's what I did today and here's what I did yesterday and this is what's blocking me. I think that's just a load of crap. Honestly, if you just talk about what you're doing, you will get a much better picture of what's going on throughout the entire team. We do have a few rules though. First one is you're not just talking to take up space. Don't just fill dead air because you think that you have to come to the meeting and you have to give an update. Second, don't just give a boilerplate ticket number when you're talking about something you're working on, right? So I worked on ABC 123 today. That tells nobody anything about what you actually did. Just talk about what you did. It helps so the team can understand. And finally, if you need help, this is the time to call it out. You can say, hey, I'm stuck on this and can somebody help me out? That's a great opportunity for somebody else to be able to help you out. And finally, this is your opportunity to communicate with the product owners to let them know where they are in the project and what might need to be done moving into the future. That's really the entire purpose of the meeting. It's very quick, and we roll through the whole thing with like 30 people on the call in 15 minutes time. And by the time we're done, everybody walks away and they know what's going on. The second one, for software delivery practices, we do follow a delivery pipeline. We obviously have a ton of automation and we lean heavily on it. But we don't necessarily push everything to production automatically. There's a bunch of steps involved, and all of these steps are well outlined, and they're necessary in order to deliver like a really good product, right? You're gonna have tech reviews, you're gonna have QA processes, you're gonna have automated tests, you're gonna have a demo, and then you're gonna get final approval, and then it's gonna go out to production. It is delivered on a piece-by-piece basis, and we do oftentimes, 10, 15 deliveries per day to production. But it's not automatic, and everything can be planned. So as you're working on something, it moves through the steps, it's ready to go. We check and make sure that it's good for going out, and then it gets deployed. It's not an automatic delivery to production like a lot of people say you need to do when you're doing Agile to deliver things to production on a regular basis. The final one is planning and communications. I think that working together on a team is going to require a heavy amount of communication. but it doesn't have to be super structured. Just as long as everybody's talking, you can get the job done. So I don't think that we really have like planning meetings that are scheduled, right? We don't do a planning meeting every 2 weeks. We don't do sprint planning. We do work a constant backlog, and the backlog is always being scrutinized and shuffled around. That's just a normal part of the process. When things are at the top of the backlog, we pull them off. It's really more Kanban style than anything else. We pull things from the top of the list and work them as we can. Planning happens pretty naturally. When you need to meet with a developer, or you need to meet with an architect, product manager will reach out and just kind of make it happen. We work through the details, write it all down, get it planned out, and then move it into the backlog to the right spot so it can be picked up. Our teams are also fairly self-organizing. We do have groups of people that are more likely than not to work together on a given project, and that's just because they know the project well. But if you need somebody from a different group, all you have to do is ask, and you can pull people together and you can work on a project together. And I think probably the most important thing when it comes to communication is that everyone has a core set of business hours, and we all are available at that time. And at any point in time during the day, you can reach out to literally anyone on the team and ask them a question. If you need to hop on a screen share, you can. If not, chat is fine, or voice, or whatever you need to do, but we're all pretty highly available and ready to talk whenever we need to. And I think another part about communications, and this is something that you do find in Agile a lot, and that is the retrospective. We do have a bi-weekly meeting where we all get together and we talk about how we can improve. But the important and the most important thing about our retrospectives is that it's a no-blame kind of zone. Everybody gets together and we talk very openly about the successes and the failures and the places where we can improve. At the end of the day, it's not just about checking some box and moving on. Like, oh, we did the retrospective, we have to do that every week. So it's not making the donuts. It's really trying to improve the team. So when we get together, we constructively review the successes and the failures, and we make decisions based on the entire team's input on what needs to be done next to make it better next time. Failures don't happen a second time because we talked about them, and they're gonna be fine the next time they go through. So at the end, I sincerely hope that you work at a place where you can constructively look at the Agile methodology and decide if what you're doing is truly Agile or if it's just whatever the book told you was Agile. Because really, at the end of the day, Agile is what you make of it. These are truly just a set of guiding principles that, if you follow them, can help deliver software in a more efficient manner and without developer burnout, which is absolutely killer to any team. So thanks for stopping by and listening to me rant a little while about Agile. Until next time, happy coding.